Welcome. As I was saying, you are Vice President and Creative Director at Travel Mindset, and we are here today to discuss influencer marketing. So before we get into sort of the current state of influencer marketing, I want to look back towards the start of the pandemic with an interesting trend that we saw, which was that while many travel brands had to pull or delay their influencer campaigns, we actually saw social media engagement was actually up.
Right.
Almost like we were all sitting at home looking at our phones. Who's to say? I know Travel Mindset has definitely noted this trend. Can you talk a little bit about what you were seeing as this was happening?
Yeah, so it was interesting. Studies were showing that people were spending 1 to 2 additional hours per day on social media channels. So, we were surveying our audience and noticed that, people were obviously looking for information. News was changing by the hour. And they were also looking to be entertained and then create a connection with people, maybe friends in real life or just influencers like them that they were watching kind of go through lockdowns or quarantine, how they were just making the most of it or staying as safe as possible. And we were just devouring content. I mean, we saw an increase in TikTok. People were spending hours upon hours on TikTok because it was more of kind of a fast and loose entertainment channel rather than the polished content that we were all used to seeing over on Instagram. So yeah, it was interesting. And it definitely weeded some wannabe influencers out, right?
Oh, okay.
if you were kind of skating by and just creating like okay content, didn't really have any kind of real connection with your audience. Those people kind of just went to the wayside because you really couldn't fake it anymore. People, especially in the beginning, were definitely looking for truth, authenticity, and just being real about how kind of upsetting and
Right.
what the situation was.
Yeah, I guess for an influencer who's sort of in it for the free trips or free perks that they're getting, is, if they don't have that engagement, I guess you do fall off.
Yeah, and I think influencers, if they were just so specific to travel, if every single thing they posted had always been about travel, I think there was this month of kind of trying to figure out how to be relevant, in a time where no one's traveling, and it was even weird to post an old travel photo because it felt just so out of touch with what people were going through. I think people really had to kind of dig deep. The ones that started posting about local initiatives, they're the ones that have continued to thrive. They were kind of able to shift and now probably have stronger audiences than they did before even. So.
Yeah. So how did you mentioned the local aspect, how did influencer campaigns pivot or influencers pivot? And, are they starting to just go back to business as usual, or are they back on the road? Are they keeping some changes to their approach during the pandemic, again, with regards to safety and just being transparent about like their experience? What are you seeing moving forward?
Yeah, I think the biggest note then and now is that every region, every city, state is kind of handling things a bit differently. Just, Vermont just recently opened up where there wasn't a quarantine if travelers were coming in again. So that changes the entire experience for Vermont. Before, you needed to have all this time if you were going to go visit the state. Now that's kind of taken that back down. Everyone's kind of responding differently still, even now. But I think for influencers who really had that strong relationship with their audience and that trust of their audience, the ones that are showing kind of the vaccine process and also the negative side of that, they are getting kind of all of the pushback from people who don't want to be vaccinated or maybe just don't trust it right yet. They're kind of putting themselves out there showing like, hey, we can do this safely. These are the things we need to do to get back, out there to be on the road to recovery. And they're all doing it a bit different, but I think that's exciting too, watching the different trends that are coming up, and what's kind of succeeding now that didn't in the past and vice versa.
Mm-hmm. Right. I guess that leads me to, that's great that people are posting their vaccines, because that is absolutely the safest way to get back out there and travel. But, what are there other ethical concerns for influencers promoting travel? Obviously each region or even state has different restrictions, but, what are the ethical concerns there for people that are maybe not traveling as safely as they should be, or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing about the pandemic is it really put your vetting process, it made that the most important thing. There really is no reason to work with an influencer who you're worried about. Get on the phone with them before they're coming to your destination, talk about the safety measures that are in place, what you want them to highlight. Especially if you're doing a paid branded campaign, you really can help sculpt the messaging and what you want out there about your destination, or what the locals want out there about the destination. I think that's one thing that the pandemic kind of brought, was like how tourism, is hand in hand with the local economy, and what do they want coming out of all of this too. But yeah, I think the ethical stuff is the same questions you would need to ask any paid media, paid marketing that you're doing. You should do influencers. But influencers actually have that personal trust and relatability that, a social media site or, a big magazine just doesn't have, and honestly will never have. So you actually can kind of get that messaging in a bit deeper. It's a little different when someone who you've watched take their kid restart school is telling you how to travel, versus a magazine that's saying, this is how you should travel. It's not as, not as relatable.
Right. So for travel brands looking to, utilize influencers to sort of kickstart recovery, what sort of things should they be thinking about? And also, what is the ROI that they're looking for? Do they want impressions and engagement? Is it booking and sales? What are travel brands trying to get out of these relationships?
Yeah, so I think that's a great word, like, that takes over this whole category, is relationships, really thinking about them beyond just a one-off post or a one-off visit. I would say those one-off visits, one-off posts should never be used again. It really creates no brand loyalty, no brand authority with their audiences. And so kind of just wipe that away from your strategy completely. I hope that brands look at their overall strategy. Now is a perfect time as we're going back into this, and all of the different marketing and PR that you're doing, and think about influencers at the beginning of that, and really how they can help all of your other marketing and PR efforts. And maybe that means you are picking less influencers overall, but the ones you are picking, you're using throughout the year. And really looking at them as their own, kind of like less of just an Instagram personality and more of content producers and media channels, because that's really what they are. So many influencers are amazing videographers, amazing photographers. They can create long form content, short form content. They're probably up to date on social media trends before you are, or before you're a social media person. So, even utilize them for like consulting, like how should we go about this? And then you can kind of think about ROI, because, we always ask a lot of our clients, like, okay, do you want, more awareness? Do you want more website traffic? Do you want bookings? Because those three things, the deliverables may be different, right? So, one thing that we started using in the fall was really whitelisting and retargeting different influencers' accounts. So don't know what that means. Basically, you are able to tap into an influencer's account, either on Facebook or Instagram, and do an ad, but it comes from their account, and then you're able to retarget users who visit your link. So it's amazing. Like, we're seeing a 40% increase in bookings that way over a brand's own retargeting efforts. So gone are the days where your retargeting needed to be different from your influencer stuff. You honestly could combine them. And so my last kind of like takeaway for right now is just making sure that no influencer campaign is just a one post or kind of does one thing. So it only does social media awareness. No, like, also go ahead and figure out what content you need. What can they provide, so that you don't have to pay for a whole videographer crew or
Right.
models or all of that stuff. Like, make sure that's kind of baked into the contract. Or if you need short form videos, like, how could you repurpose their Instagram stories to do stuff on your site? There's really just so many ways you can utilize their content that I think is getting left unutilized, that I really want to encourage that for 2021.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, I mean, that just goes back to your point about the relationship, and that relationship, just the possibilities that come with that are immense. And, you know, the travel brand, I think, ultimately will benefit from that if they invest in it appropriately.
Yeah, and even just that relationship of knowing them and trusting them that they're going to provide the best content for you. Being able to say, hey, I don't know what to, we have all these ideas for Q2, but I want to come to you. This is the RFP that we're sending out. Like, what would you do?
Yeah.
Like, instead of just bringing them in when you already have your idea, like, they might have an idea that you've never even thought about that would be awesome to do. So, really utilize them for the creativity side of the strategy as well.
Absolutely. And then I wanted to talk a bit about, thinking about making your social media content, your influencer content, diverse and inclusive, as we know that that's becoming more and more important, and things that travel brands are finally sort of starting to think about. Why is it important that they consider diversity and inclusion? And, what are the consequences to them not doing that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest consequence is people feel unwelcomed. If they don't see themselves in your marketing, they just will not feel like your place is for them. And I mean, just coming as a person with a family, if I see marketing that's geared with little kids, then I'm like, great, obviously, that destination is great for moms. But yeah, you should be looking at like LGBTQ, people of color, persons with disabilities. Like, the diversity really should span kind of all of the things and be truly inclusive. Right. And so, and that's, New York, they have a great, like, Black-owned businesses. It's highlighted on their homepage, an itinerary that hits all of those spots. And then there was another one, I can't think of it off the top of my head, which I feel horrible about, but they had a whole kind of wheelchair route that you could do and see all these murals and stuff. So really just thinking about, like, targeting content for them. And yeah, you'll just make them feel welcomed in your destination, and you'll reach new audiences that may have wanted to come, but if they saw a different destination or a different property that was marketing to them, they definitely chose that over you.
Right. And I know Travel Mindset works with a company called Black Girl Digital. Can you talk a bit about what they do and how they work with Travel Mindset?
Yeah, so we partnered with them last spring, and we brought them in-house, and then kind of quickly realized, like, we needed a few more joint efforts. And we do diversity audits with our clients. So we'll look at their website, email marketing, social content, and just identify areas that, they could have improvement on, influencers that would be a good fit for them. Even looking at, like, okay, we see you have this type of content, but it's a few years old. We really need to kind of refresh that. Even just from, like, headers, like headings that you have on your website. So we do audits for that. And especially last year, there was a lot of downtime, where people weren't spending on other things. So it was a good time to kind of be like, we're taking a pause. We're going to reevaluate everything and really have a full plan of how to go into the next year.
Right. I did want to touch on a couple emerging platforms that we have on this Pulse event today. We heard from TikTok earlier, and we have a session on Clubhouse coming up. I'm curious, how have you seen travel influencers utilize these platforms? Let's skew more towards Clubhouse, because that's sort of the real hot platform of the moment.
Yes. So, Clubhouse is great because you're able to have conversations with anyone, anywhere, right? So, if you're a destination and I saw Memphis tourism was really getting in on Clubhouse even a couple months ago, where they were having conversations with all of these different music venues, artists that were Memphis local. And, they had, I think it was 10 co-hosts. So you're able to have co-hosts and they're able to invite all of their followers. You're able to ping people into the room. And so they're able to talk about Memphis, but through this other lens of music, right? And so you're just keeping the destination top of mind for, a passion point for so many people. I think it'll be interesting as it continues to develop. You have people that are becoming influencers on that platform. They are having thousands of people who are following them. And the best thing though is you don't have to have thousands of followers to have the platform. You can join other groups if you're a traveler and you want to, talk about studying abroad, or you want to talk about, gap year, whatever it may be, long weekend away. There are rooms every single day, and anyone can kind of raise their hand and get up on stage, ask a question. I think there's so many possibilities with Clubhouse that we've yet to even utilize. Even for conferences, we've all done virtual now, but how great would it just be to hop on a quick Clubhouse for 30 minutes, once a week or something on a different topic to just stay top of mind with trends in the industry. And I know that Skiff does some and you guys do some. So it's really just been a great way to connect with the industry.
Right. Absolutely. And hopefully when you're on Clubhouse, the audio works and we don't all get muted.
Sometimes, you never know. I'm somehow able to bring tech difficulties to any webinar. So here I am.
Good. We have that in common. Great. Unfortunately, we are at time, but Jade, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
No, thank you so much. And I'm excited for just, to get things on the road again.
Exactly. All right. Thanks so much.